You ever have one of those nights where your gut whispers, "Don't go," and you go anyway? Yeah, that was me, Thursday night, standing outside a steakhouse that smelled like betrayal and ribeye. Ashley had invited me to dinner. Just to talk, she said. Nothing serious. Which is exactly what people say right before they rearrange your life with a smile. When I walked in, I saw them both, her and him. Him being Chase Donovan, the guy who looked like he moisturized with ego and protein shakes. Ashley sat too close, laughed too loud. And me? I just stood there, like the prize they forgot to auction off. Logan, she said, sweetly, this is Chase. From work. From work. Right. I'd heard about him before. Too often. The mentor, the creative genius, the guy who gets her. What I didn't get, until that moment, was that I'd been cast in a play where the plot twist was my own humiliation. I sat down. Because sometimes, dignity has to wait until after dessert. Chase leaned in. Let's make this simple, he said, his voice smooth like it had been rehearsed in front of a mirror. You can leave quietly, or face me like a man. Ashley smiled. And that, my friend, was the sound of the curtain rising on the worst night of my life. I didn't respond with words. Just a long look. You know the kind, the one you give a man right before you remove him from your mental list of people worth respecting. I stood up. Not in rage. Not in drama. Just enough to push my chair back with the kind of calm that scares people more than yelling ever could. You want your teeth whole or in pieces? I asked Chase, softly. He blinked. Ashley gasped. The waiter retreated like he'd seen a ghost. Chase tried to play it cool, but his eyes were doing calculus he wasn't smart enough to finish. Then I walked out. Because you don't fight a weasel in a steakhouse. You fight him in silence. With facts. And maybe later, with something more permanent. I drove home in a fog. Not the kind that clouds your judgment, but the kind that clears it. Every memory of her, the inside jokes, the forever talk, the lazy Sundays, got filed away under fiction. When I got home, I noticed something strange. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. Same furniture, same walls. But the soul had shifted. There was a scent in the air when I didn't wear. Cologne, maybe. Cheap. Arrogant. And then I saw it. On the nightstand. Her phone, unlocked. A mistake. She never left it like that. Almost like she didn't care anymore if I found out. So I looked. And brother. I found more than I bargained for. She had a folder. Titled, Work Stuff. I opened it. Spoiler, it was not work stuff. Screenshots. Videos. Voice memos. And the kind of photos you don't take if you ever plan to look your husband in the eyes again. There was one video Chase, shirtless, brushing his teeth in a hotel mirror. Behind him, Ashley, in lingerie I'd never seen before. Date stamped from 2 weekends ago. She had told me she was visiting her mother in Denver. Apparently, her mother lives in room 216 of the Fairview Suites. There was a voice note, too. Chase's voice, thick with smugness. You think he suspects? Or is he still playing house? Then her laugh. That fake, flirty laugh I used to think was mine. He still thinks we're in therapy, she said. Bless his heart. And that's when it stopped being about heartbreak. That's when it became about justice. So I made copies. Not just digital. Printed. Highlighted. Labeled. Organized like an IRS audit sent straight from hell. Then I went to the garage. Opened the safe. Inside was a file I never thought I'd use. A little something I had put together years ago, just in case. Turns out, just in case, had officially clocked in. Most people don't keep insurance for heartbreak. I do. Tucked behind old tax returns and a dusty revolver my grandfather left me, there was a slim, black binder labeled in Sharpie, JIC. Just in case. I'd started it after a coworker of mine lost everything in a divorce, his money, his house, even his dog. Not because he did anything wrong, but because his ex knew how to play the legal system like a symphony. I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. It had felt silly at first. But now, standing in my garage under the flickering bulb, it felt prophetic. Inside were all the essentials. Copies of property deeds, bank statements, passwords, photos of every valuable item in the house. Video walkthroughs timestamped and narrated. Here's the master bedroom. Jewelry box is locked. Contents appraised at $3,200. Ashley's watch, mine from my dad. No shared debt on either. I wasn't about to lose everything because someone else got bored with commitment. But now, thanks to the work stuff folder on Ashley's laptop, I had a weapon sharper than a prenup. Proof. The next morning, I made 3 calls. First, to my lawyer. A quiet, sharp woman named Karen who drank her coffee black and didn't blink even when I said, I'm not just looking for a divorce. I wanted to sting. She didn't ask why. Bring the folder. Everything. Paper copies too. And don't speak to her directly, no matter how tempting it is. Second call? The locksmith. By noon, every lock in the house was changed. Third call went to a buddy of mine from college, Eli. He's in cybersecurity now, but back in the day, he was the kind of guy who could break into your phone from across the room. I needed him to look through Ashley's cloud backups. Looking for anything specific? He asked. Not yet, I said. Just cast a wide net. I want context. And that's when the waiting started. Ashley didn't come home that night, which made sense. Why return to the scene of the crime when the getaway driver probably has his shirt off next to you? I took the quiet as a gift. Every hour gave me time to strengthen my case. Karen called back that evening. You've got enough to steamroll her in court. Infidelity, hidden spending, potential alienation of affection. If this goes public, she'll never land another marketing job again. That's not the goal, I said. Karen paused. Then what is? I didn't answer right away. I just looked around the empty living room. Her throw pillows still sat perfectly fluffed. Her books, ones she never actually read, lined the shelves like trophies of a personality she wanted to project. I want her to know what it feels like to be humiliated. Not in a screaming match. Not in a courthouse. I want the silence to be loud. Karen didn't press further. Then let's make that silence legal. She filed the papers that night. Express delivery. Ashley would be served within 24 hours. The next day, I went to work like nothing happened. Because that's the thing about heartbreak. When you wear it with quiet dignity, people assume you're fine. And I wanted everyone to assume I was fine. Even her. Especially her. That afternoon, Eli texted me. You'll want to see this. I opened the link he sent, and my blood ran cold. It was a group chat between Ashley, Chase, and two other women. Apparently, this whole betrayal was something they'd been manifesting for months. There were memes, jokes. Ashley's going to fake couples counseling just long enough to secure alimony. Chase deserves a man-sized bonus for dealing with her husband's boring vibes. And then, there was the video. Not the one from the hotel. No, this one was a recording from Ashley's phone of me. Me, a month ago, sitting on the back deck, talking to my brother over speakerphone. I was venting, raw and honest. About feeling distant. About worrying that Ashley wasn't in love with me anymore. She had filmed it secretly. Captioned it. Her baby thinks he still matters. And they all laughed. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. No, nothing as fragile as that. But it hardened. The kind of hard that doesn't melt. The kind that remembers. That night, I printed the screenshot. Just the caption. Just the frame of me mid-sentence, unaware. I slid it into an envelope and taped it to the front door. A note beneath it read, Your key won't work. Your conscience might. She came home at 11:42 p.m. I watched from the upstairs window, lights off, heart quiet. She rattled the doorknob once. Then again. Then pounded. She saw the envelope. Ripped it open. And for the first time in our marriage, I watched Ashley stand completely still. No fake tears. No flirty manipulation. Just silence. Like the house itself was telling her, You're not welcome here anymore. She didn't cry. Didn't yell. She just turned, got into her car, and drove away. I sat down on the bed, pulled out my notebook, and wrote one sentence. Day 1. Because this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about building something new. And I wasn't going to waste another second pretending she deserved to be part of it. Some people heal by talking. Others by forgiving. Me? I heal by planning. The morning after Ashley found the envelope, I woke up without the usual weight in my chest. Not because the pain was gone, it wasn't. It just had a direction now. That makes all the difference. I made eggs. Toast. Coffee black. The same routine I'd done for years, only this time, no seat set for her. I left the chair across from mine empty, like a placeholder for the version of her I used to love. Then I opened my laptop and began phase 2. Karen, my lawyer, had already filed for divorce. The paperwork had been served at her office. In front of her colleagues. She tried to call me afterward, left a voicemail that started with, Logan, this is unnecessary, and ended with, please, let's not turn this into a spectacle. Too late. But like I said, I wasn't here to scream. I was here to win. And quietly, if possible. I spent the day contacting every financial institution we'd ever used. Closed joint accounts. Froze the cards. Logged out of everything and changed the passwords. Banking, utilities, streaming, Even the Netflix profile that always recommended rom-coms I never liked. By lunch, I'd become a ghost in the systems we once shared. Ashley tried to stop by the house around 3:15. I saw her on the doorbell cam. She knocked, waited, paced, tried the key again. Then she looked up at the camera and said, "You're really doing this, huh?" I didn't respond. Not then. Instead, I printed another screenshot from Eli, this time, a snippet of a chat where she joked about faking therapy sessions to buy time. I slid it into another envelope and mailed it to her parents. That night, I slept like I hadn't in months. The next few days, I heard through the grapevine, mostly mutual acquaintances and one nosy neighbor, that Ashley was shocked by how cold I was being. Apparently, she expected a mess, a breakdown, a begging voicemail, or a late-night text asking for closure. What she got was radio silence and a lawyer who didn't flinch. She tried texting once. Just a single message. "Ashley, can we at least talk face-to-face like adults?" I stared at it for 5 minutes, then deleted it. No reply. I wasn't interested in adult conversations with someone who thought betrayal was a hobby and marriage a form of social networking. What I was interested in, though, was Chase. I had a plan for him, too. See, people like Chase don't thrive in sunlight. They need secrecy, shadows. They're charming until someone shines a spotlight on their bad haircut and borrowed confidence. And wouldn't you know it, Eli found something beautiful. Chase, it turns out, had been borrowing money from Ashley, lots of it. Thousands. Disguised as joint investments, but really he was funneling it into some half-baked crypto scheme with a name like Quantum Bloom. Eli traced digital wallets, back-end records, even an Instagram DM where Chase said, "Don't tell your husband or he'll freak." He wasn't wrong, but I didn't freak. I documented every single thing. By the end of the week, I had an evidence binder the size of a college thesis. Karen was impressed. I've had private investigators bring me less. Then came the piece de resistance. Chase worked at a startup, a flashy marketing firm run by venture capital kids with big wallets and small attention spans. And guess what their biggest selling point was? Integrity branding. Oh, I made sure they got a copy of that binder. Hand-delivered. Anonymous. With a post-it that read, "Might want to rethink who's representing your values." Chase was let go within 48 hours. Ashley texted me again. "Ashley, what did you do?" I didn't reply, but I did screenshot it, just in case. By the end of that week, the emotional dust had mostly settled, but my resolve had only sharpened. My house was mine again. My schedule, my thoughts, my space, mine. I boxed up her things. Every scarf, every book, every framed picture that once meant something and now just whispered you were lied to. I labeled it all, delivered it to her friend Mandy's place. I didn't trust Ashley not to drop by under the excuse of forgetting something. This way, she had no excuse. She tried calling once. I let it ring. Then I sat on the porch and watched the sunset, the silence beside me louder than any of her apologies could ever be. There's something beautiful about revenge done right. Not loud, not violent, just decisive, clean. It doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. It just moves on. But don't get me wrong, this story isn't over. Because Chase may be down, but he's not the only one. And Ashley? She's still out there, recalculating. But so am I. And I'm just getting started. I started writing names the same night I watched the binder land on Chase's boss's desk. It wasn't a hit list. Nothing dramatic like that. Just a reckoning list. A simple roll call of everyone who helped her lie, laugh, and light the match. People who knew, encouraged, or sat on their hands while my marriage burned. At the top, Paul and Linda. They'd been at our house for wine nights, anniversaries, even helped paint the nursery when we were expecting. I remembered Paul clinking his glass and saying, to honesty, without it, what's the point? Turns out the point was apparently to cheer for my wife grinding on her ex like life was a college reunion and dignity was optional. I started small. Paul's real estate license had a history, one he didn't know I knew. 3 complaints in the last year. One, in particular, stood out, a forged signature on a rental agreement. No follow-up. No case filed. Until now. I sent the file, anonymously again, to the state real estate board. Linda? She was simpler. She ran a blog about self-love, integrity, and female empowerment. I sent her subscribers screenshots of the group chat where she called me Logan the Labrador and laughed about Ashley housebreaking me over brunch. A few well-placed emails. A few tags on her posts. Her comment section turned on her like wolves on a wounded deer. Next was Kyle. Now Kyle, he deserved better than silence. He was the friend who told me the truth, called me from the club, even when it made him uncomfortable. That kind of loyalty needed to be seen. I called him up. You're probably expecting a weird conversation, I said. Kyle laughed. Honestly, yeah. Figured you might hate me for dropping the grenade in your lap. I don't hate you, I said. I owe you. He hesitated. You sure? I've been thinking about that night ever since, wondering if I should have just stayed out of it. You did the right thing, I said. The people who did nothing? They're the ones who should lose sleep. I wired Kyle a thank you. Not cash, something better. I knew he'd always wanted to open a photography studio. I put a deposit down on a rental space near downtown. Just the first month. A seed. No strings. He called me crying. I hung up with a rare sense of peace. But the list wasn't done. Next came her boss. Ashley had used conference weekends as cover for at least 3 of her hotel escapades. I knew the dates. I knew the hotels. Eli helped me trace the receipts. Her company prided itself on ethics. I checked their code of conduct online. There it was in bold font. All travel expenses must align with documented business purposes. Any misuse will be grounds for termination. You'd be surprised how fast HR moves when you attach screenshots and spreadsheets. She didn't get fired. Not right away. But her expense account got frozen. An internal audit launched. And her access card mysteriously stopped working the next day. Ashley texted me a third time. Ashley, you're seriously going to ruin my whole life over this? I didn't answer. But I did draft a reply I never sent. Funny, that's exactly what you did to mine. I'm just letting the truth walk the same halls you used to sneak through. By now, the silence had become her worst enemy. See, Ashley was a performer. A stage needs an audience. But I gave her none. No reaction. No fight. Just consequence. A week passed. Then 2. Then one day, she came to the door. Not to scream. Not to beg. Just to be there. Like maybe proximity would fix the vacancy she'd created. I opened the door slowly, didn't say a word. She looked tired. Hair tied back in a way I'd never seen. No makeup. Just raw eyes and regret wrapped in a hoodie. I know you hate me, she said. I didn't respond. I don't expect you to ever forgive me, she added, looking at the floor. Still silent. But I need to say it out loud before it eats me alive. I ruined us. Not because you weren't enough, but because I was too selfish to admit I was unhappy. I thought hurting you quietly was better than being honest and watching you walk. She looked up at me. I was wrong. And for a moment, I believed she meant it. But then I remembered the videos. The jokes. The moment she let another man disrespect me in public while sipping wine like it was a game. You didn't ruin us, I finally said, voice low. You killed yourself in my story. That's different. She flinched. Not at the volume. At the precision. I'm not going to fight you, she whispered. No, I nodded. Because there's nothing left to fight for. She looked like she might say more. Might beg. But she didn't. She turned. Walked back to her car. And this time, I didn't watch her leave. Instead, I walked inside, pulled out the reckoning list, and drew a line through her name. Not because the damage was undone, but because she no longer mattered enough to plan for. The thing no one tells you about betrayal is how quiet the aftermath is. At first, everything's loud. You hear your heart pounding in your ears. The echo of their laughter in that chat group. The ringing silence when your name comes up and people glance away like it's too radioactive to touch. But eventually, it all fades. The noise dies. And then, there's just quiet. And for the first time in a long while, I liked it. The house was silent, and not the sad kind either. Not the kind where you sit in the kitchen staring at a second coffee mug that's still warm because habit made you pour 2. No, this was a good quiet. A clean quiet. A kind that didn't lie to you. I had reclaimed my space. Ashley's furniture was gone. She'd sent a moving company to pick it up under Karen's supervision. Her faux minimalist vanity. Her framed quotes about courage and honesty that now read like satire. All of it? Out. I didn't redecorate right away. I left rooms empty for a reason. I wanted space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to grow into. It's funny how much larger a house feels when you're no longer walking on eggshells inside it. That Saturday, I spent the morning in the garage, cleaning out old boxes. Stuff we both hoarded, vacation souvenirs from places that now felt like cover stories. Candles from anniversaries that clearly meant more to me than to her. I found a photo album we'd started years ago and stopped halfway through. The last page? A blurry picture of us at a vineyard. I remember thinking she looked distracted. Now I knew why. I put the album in the donation box, then changed my mind and tossed it into the fireplace. Some memories don't need storage. They need combustion. Around noon, I headed to the hardware store. Picked up paint, tools, a new deadbolt. It felt oddly symbolic, like I was literally patching the holes she'd left. In the aisle by the paint swatches, an older man tapped me on the shoulder. "Excuse me," he said. "You look like you know your way around a brush. Which of these would you use for a fresh start?" I looked down at the choices. 2 colors. One pale blue, one soft gray. I pointed at the gray. Calm, clean, forgettable. "Trust me, you don't want your walls to remember what they've seen." He gave a short laugh. "You a poet or a man who's just been through something?" "Little of both," I said. The next few weeks, I fell into a rhythm. Wake up, run 3 miles. Work, fix something, closet door, cabinet hinge, the garden that had turned to chaos under our so-called shared responsibilities. Turns out, I was more of a plant guy than I'd thought. Evenings were quiet. I read again. Watched shows I'd always put off. Ordered Chinese food without thinking about her weird, no-soy diet that somehow always became my restriction too. I started writing again, old short stories and half-finished scripts from years back. I even joined a local boxing gym, not for revenge, not for rage. Just to hit something that hit back. Something honest. Something real. The people around me noticed. "You seem better," my brother said over dinner one night. "I am better," I said, between bites. "Not healed. Not fine. But better." He nodded. "That's the thing about rock bottom. Only way from there is up. Unless you dig," I said with a grin. He laughed. "Don't start gardening metaphors. Mom will cry." One night, about a month after the silence began, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. I knew the handwriting instantly. Ashley. Inside were 2 pages. No manipulation. No begging. Just a confession. A soft, strangely honest account of the why behind it all. The loneliness. The resentment. The thrill. She didn't justify it, just acknowledged it. Said she'd started therapy. Said she finally understood the difference between excitement and happiness. "I thought chaos meant passion," she wrote. "Now I see it just meant noise." She ended the letter with one line. "I hope your quiet is kinder than my storm ever was." I read it once. Then again. Then I folded it and slipped it into the fireplace next to the photo album's ashes. Not out of anger. Just closure. Because she was right. My quiet was kinder. It made room for growth. For peace. For things I hadn't realized I was missing until I was forced to stand still long enough to notice. The reckoning was over. The noise had passed. And for the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was living. And that? That was louder than any apology could ever be. About 2 months after the dust settled, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years, Mason. College roommate. The guy who once broke up with a girl by mailing her a mixtape labeled Track 8 Explains Everything. He'd heard what happened. Word travels fast when your ex's affair becomes a slow-motion demolition on social media. He didn't offer pity, which I appreciated. He offered whiskey and a job lead. "There's an opening in Denver," he said. "Senior project manager. Better pay. Clean slate. And best of all, no shared history." I didn't even hesitate. "Send me the details." I needed out of this town. Out of the restaurants where staff still asked, "Table for 2?" Out of the gym where Chase once strutted like a cologne commercial. Out of the streets where everything looked familiar and felt poisoned. I packed what mattered. Burned what didn't. I kept the house, rented it to a young couple just starting out. I liked the symmetry in that. Denver welcomed me like a good dog. Cautious at first, then loyal. New apartment. New routine. New version of me. The only thing I brought from the past? A laminated card taped above my desk. It read, "Silence is a sentence. Serve it well." Months passed. Denver became home. I found new rhythms, new people, even caught myself smiling at dumb things again. A neighbor's dog. A bad pun in a meeting. The sun bleeding orange over the Rockies. One day, I got a message from my lawyer. "Final divorce paperwork is ready. You're officially free." No celebration. No champagne. Just a long, steady exhale. But here's what surprised me. There was no last message from Ashley. No final call. No curtain-closing confession. Just silence. Which, ironically, felt like the most honest thing she'd ever given me. I thought about that letter sometimes. Wondered if she ever meant it. If she really went to therapy. If she ever looked at Chase and realized she'd traded a lighthouse for a flickering porch light. But I didn't ask. I didn't dig. I didn't care. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And I'd finally crossed into that sweet, silent territory. One day, I saw a familiar name pop up online, Chase. Fired again. This time from a marketing firm in Phoenix. Apparently, team building doesn't mean date the intern. Ashley wasn't tagged in any photos. Not a single smiling selfie in over 6 months. I closed the app and went back to my coffee. Because her ending didn't need to be my sequel. It happened on a Thursday. I was walking home from a grocery run. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet evening. Sky bruised with twilight. Bag full of coffee beans and frozen dumplings. And then I saw her. Ashley. Standing outside a bookstore across the street. Hair shorter. Shoulders heavier. She wasn't waiting for me, just staring through the glass like she didn't know how to be alone. She hadn't seen me. And I didn't cross the street. I just watched her for a second, that familiar silhouette now part of someone else's story. A character who used to be the star and now barely earned a cameo. Then I turned the corner. Walked home. Left her there. Because revenge? It already happened. It happened when I didn't scream. When I didn't chase. When I didn't collapse. It happened when I rebuilt. When I moved forward. When I no longer needed her to understand what she destroyed. Some people want closure to feel better. Me? I just needed distance. And now? Now I had miles.